My name is Evelina. I'm 34 years old and a single mum living in Arizona. My daughter Sophia was turning 12 and I had spent a year saving for her dream Disneyland birthday trip. Then my family started pressuring me about making things fair for all the cousins. I made the worst mistake of my life by cancelling everything she was looking forward to. The moment I saw her face crumble, I knew I had betrayed her trust in the worst possible way. Before I share how one decision shattered my daughter's heart, let me know where you're watching from and hit subscribe to join me on this painful journey. 4 years ago, my ex-husband and I finalized our divorce after 8 years of marriage. The split was amicable enough, but it left me raising Sophia primarily on my own. She sees her dad every other weekend, but the day-to-day parenting falls squarely on my shoulders. We settled into a small 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Phoenix, not fancy, but comfortable enough for the two of us. I work as an administrative assistant at a local law firm. The pay is decent, but there isn't much left after covering rent, utilities, groceries, and the basic necessities. Despite our tight budget, I've always tried to make Sophia feel special, especially on her birthday. She's such a good kid, never complaining about the things we can't afford, or the fact that her friends live in bigger houses with pools in their backyards. Since she was tiny, Sophia has been obsessed with Disney princesses. Her room is decorated with Cinderella figurines and Frozen posters. She falls asleep to Disney soundtracks and knows every word to every princess song ever written. For years, she's been begging to go to Disneyland, but it was always financially out of reach. When Sophia's 11th birthday approached last year, I made her a promise while we shared cupcakes at our kitchen table. Next year, sweetheart, for your 12th birthday, we're going to Disneyland. Just you and me. Her eyes lit up like I'd promised her the moon. Really, Mom? For real? For real, I said. I'm going to start saving right now. And I did. I picked up extra hours at work whenever possible. I started a dedicated Disney fund, putting aside a little from each paycheck. I cut back on my own expenses, brewing coffee at home instead of stopping at Starbucks packing lunches, instead of buying them and cancelling my own small indulgences. For an entire year, Sophia tracked our progress on a Disneyland thermometer chart we made together. Each time I added to the savings, she would colour in another portion, getting more excited as we inched toward our goal. By the time her 12th birthday was approaching, we had saved enough for 2 days at the park, 2 nights at one of the cheaper hotels nearby, and a special princess character breakfast I knew would make her birthday morning magical. I even arranged for a custom Cinderella cake to be delivered to our table during the breakfast. The castle would be blue to match Cinderella's dress, with a tiny glass slipper made of sugar perched on top. Sophia spent hours researching rides and attractions, creating a detailed itinerary to maximize our 2 days. She made lists of which princesses she hoped to meet and which souvenirs she might choose, with the spending money she'd been saving from her allowance. Every night before bed, she would count down the days, practically vibrating with anticipation. 36 more days, Mom. Only 29 days left. 3 more weeks. Her excitement was contagious, and seeing her so happy made all the extra work and sacrifices worthwhile. For once, I felt like I was giving my daughter something truly special, something she would remember forever. Unfortunately, my extended family has always been a complicated part of our lives. My sister Laura is 2 years younger than me and has 10-year-old twin girls, Madison and Mia. My brother James is the baby of the family at 30 with a 9-year-old son, Tyler. We all live within 20 miles of each other, as do our parents, which means frequent family gatherings and the complicated dynamics that come with them. Since childhood, there's been an unspoken competition between the 3 of us siblings. Laura has always been the pretty, socially savvy one who married well. James was the athletic star who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. And I was the responsible, practical middle child who followed the rules but never quite stood out. These childhood roles followed us into adulthood and parenthood. Laura's girls have every advantage from horseback riding lessons to private school. James's son is being groomed as a junior baseball star with expensive coaching and travel teams. Meanwhile, Sophia and I live more modestly, but we're happy in our own quiet way. At family gatherings, I had noticed a pattern developing. If Sophia received even a small amount of extra attention or a special treat, Laura or James would make subtle comments about fairness and equality. To keep the peace, Sophia and I often accommodated everyone else's preferences, from where we would eat to which activities we would do. Sophia never complained, but I sometimes caught a fleeting look of disappointment cross her face before she plastered on a smile for her cousins. I should have recognized the warning signs. I should have protected Sophia's special day more fiercely. But old family patterns are hard to break, and my desire to avoid conflict would soon lead me to make the worst mistake of my motherhood journey. 3 weeks before our scheduled Disneyland trip, my parents hosted a Sunday dinner for the extended family. These monthly gatherings were a tradition, with everyone bringing a dish and catching up on family news. The spring evening was pleasant, so we ate on my parents' back patio, enjoying barbecue chicken and my mum's famous potato salad. Sophia was sitting between her cousins, animatedly telling them about our upcoming trip. We're going to stay for 2 whole days, and Mom booked a princess breakfast for my actual birthday morning, she explained, her voice rising with excitement. I've already planned which rides we're going to do first. Space Mountain is at the top of the list. I watched her from across the table, smiling at her enthusiasm. But my smile faded when I caught my sister Laura's expression. Her lips were pressed into a thin line as she exchanged a meaningful glance with our brother James. Disneyland, huh? Laura said, an edge to her voice as she turned to me. That sounds like quite the extravagant birthday celebration. I felt a familiar tension creep into my shoulders. We've been saving all year for this. It's something Sophia has always wanted to do. Must be nice. Laura continued, spooning more salad onto her plate without looking up. The twins have been begging to go to Disneyland too, but I always tell them we need to be practical about these things. James jumped in before I could respond. Tyler mentioned something about Disneyland last month, and I told him maybe when he's a bit older. You know how kids get when they hear their cousins are getting special treatment? It's not special treatment, I said. Trying to keep my voice even, despite the defensiveness rising in my chest. It's her birthday wish, and we've worked hard to make it happen. All I'm saying, Laura pressed, is that now the twins will be asking why Sophia gets to go to Disneyland for her birthday when they didn't for theirs. It creates expectations, you know. My mother, always the peacekeeper, chimed in. It does sound like a lovely trip, Evelina, though I can see Laura's point about the other children feeling left out. The conversation moved on to other topics, but I could feel the undercurrent of disapproval lingering. Sophia seemed oblivious, still chatting happily with her cousins, but I felt a knot forming in my stomach. The next day, my father called me during my lunch break. Your trip with Sophia sounds wonderful, he began, but your mother and I are a bit concerned about the precedent it sets. We've always tried to treat all the grandchildren equally. Dad, this isn't about treating the kids equally, I explained. This is about a special birthday trip that Sophia and I have been planning and saving for all year. I understand that, honey, but family harmony is important too. Laura called your mother this morning, quite upset, saying the twins have been asking why they can't go to Disneyland for their birthday. The calls and texts continued throughout the week. Laura sent passive-aggressive messages about her daughters feeling left out. James mentioned that perhaps we should consider more inclusive family activities. My mother called twice more to suggest alternatives that wouldn't create division among the cousins. Each message and call added to the weight on my shoulders. Though I tried to shield Sophia from the tension, she was perceptive enough to notice something was wrong. Is everything okay, Mum? She asked one evening as I frowned at yet another text from Laura. Everything's fine, sweetheart, I assured her quickly, putting my phone away. Just some work stuff. Are we still on for Disneyland? It's only 18 days away now. Of course we are, I said, pushing aside my doubts. I can't wait. But the pressure continued to mount. The following weekend, Laura invited us over for coffee and cake. While the kids played in the backyard, she laid out her case more directly. Look, Evelina, I know you want to do something special for Sophia, and that's wonderful. But have you considered how this makes the other kids feel? Madison came home crying after the family dinner, asking why Aunt Evelina loves Sophia more than her. That's not fair, I protested. This isn't about loving one child more than another. I know that, and you know that, but kids don't see it that way, Laura argued. What if we came up with an alternative, something fun that all the cousins could enjoy together? Like what? I asked already, feeling my resolve weakening. There's that new amusement park that opened last year, Adventureland. It's right here in town, so no hotel costs. The 4 kids could have a joint cousin celebration. James and I would contribute financially, of course. But I've already made all the reservations, I said weakly. The princess breakfast, the custom cake. Laura waved her hand dismissively. Those can be cancelled. And Adventureland has character experiences too, not Disney ones, but the kids probably wouldn't know the difference. We could get a generic birthday cake that everyone would enjoy, not just something princess-themed that the boys wouldn't care for. I left Laura's house with the weight of indecision heavy on my shoulders. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, torn between standing firm on the special experience I had promised Sophia and keeping peace within the family. I thought about past family conflicts and how they had lingered for weeks, creating tension at every gathering. I thought about Sophia's relationship with her cousins, which had always been positive, and worried about driving a wedge between them. I imagined future family events filled with resentment and comments about the time Sophia got preferential treatment. What kind of mother puts her child's birthday wish above family harmony? But then again, what kind of mother breaks a promise she's spent a year helping her child look forward to as dawn broke? I was still awake, my mind racing between these two impossible choices. The next morning, after dropping Sophia off at school, I made my decision. Instead of going straight to work, I parked my car in a quiet corner of a nearby shopping centre lot and pulled out my phone. My hands trembled slightly as I navigated to the Disneyland reservation website. Cancel reservation. I clicked, then confirmed when the warning message appeared. A hollow feeling settled in my stomach as I received the cancellation email. Next, I called the restaurant where I had arranged the princess breakfast and custom Cinderella cake. I need to cancel a reservation, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. That's no problem, ma'am. May I have the reservation details? I provided the information, feeling a physical pain in my chest as I specified, and there was a custom cake ordered as well. That needs to be cancelled too. The Cinderella castle cake. Are you sure the pastry chef has already started the design work? Yes, I said, closing my eyes tightly. I'm sure. After paying a cancellation fee for the cake, I called Adventureland to arrange the alternative birthday celebration. The employee who took my call was cheerful and efficient, booking a group package for 8 people, 2 adults and 4 children, plus my parents who would join us. And would you like to order a birthday cake? She asked. Yes, I replied. Just a standard cake, nothing themed. Chocolate with vanilla frosting would be fine. It needs to say happy birthday, cousins. Not a specific name. No, I said the words, tasting bitter in my mouth. It's a joint celebration for all 4 cousins. After finishing the new arrangements, I sent a group text to Laura and James. Change of plans. Cancelled Disneyland. Booked Adventureland for all cousins together on Sophia's birthday weekend. Can you both make it? The responses came quickly. Laura. That's wonderful. The twins will be so excited. You're making the right choice, Evelina. James. Count us in. Talara will love it. Thanks for being so considerate. Their approval should have made me feel better, but instead, I felt a growing sense of unease. I drove to work in a daze, barely registering the traffic around me. Throughout the day, my phone buzzed with follow-up messages from my siblings. Laura wanted to know if the cake would be chocolate or vanilla, because Madison doesn't like chocolate. James asked if we could schedule the celebration for late morning because Tyler had a baseball practice until 10. My mother called to say she'd bring her camera to capture the special day. Everyone was suddenly invested in the details of this group celebration, making requests and suggestions that would have never been directed at my Disneyland plans with Sophia. The irony wasn't lost on me that the very people who had pressured me about fairness were now advocating for accommodations for their own children. As the workday ended, anxiety knotted my stomach at the thought of telling Sophia about the change. I stopped at the grocery store on the way home, picking up ingredients for her favorite dinner, homemade mac and cheese with garlic bread. A pathetic peace offering for what I was about to do. I prepared dinner with mechanical movements, rehearsing different ways to break the news. Maybe she would understand. Maybe she would even be excited about celebrating with her cousins instead. The sound of Sophia's key in the door sent my heart racing. "Mum, I'm home," she called out, dropping her backpack by the door. "Something smells good." "I made your favorite," I said, forcing a smile. "Mac and cheese from scratch." Yum. She came into the kitchen and gave me a hug. I was telling Zoe all about our Disneyland trip today. She's so jealous I showed her the princess breakfast menu online, and she couldn't believe they make Mickey-shaped waffles. My heart sank as I set plates on the table. Dinner's ready, let's eat while it's hot. Throughout the meal, Sophia chatted excitedly about school and then circled back to Disneyland plans. I nodded and made appropriate noises but barely touched my food. "Mum, you're being really quiet. Is something wrong?" It was time. I put down my fork and took a deep breath. "Sophia, there's something I need to tell you about the birthday trip." "Cassette." Her smile faltered slightly. "What about it?" "I've been thinking a lot about our family and how important it is for all the cousins to feel included and treated equally." I began the rehearsed speech, sounding hollow even to my own ears. "Okay," Sophia said slowly, her eyes beginning to show concern. "I talked with Aunt Laura and Uncle James, and we thought it might be nice to do something that all the cousins could enjoy together. A group celebration. Sophia's fork clattered against her plate. What are you saying? I'm saying that instead of going to Disneyland, we're going to have a special day at Adventureland with Madison, Mia, and Tyler. Won't that be fun? All the cousins together. Her face cycled through emotions, confusion, disbelief, and then a dawning horror that made my stomach clench. You cancelled Disneyland, our trip, the one we've been saving for all year. It's still going to be a special birthday, I said quickly. Adventureland has lots of great rides and attractions, and everyone will be there to celebrate with you. But you promised. Her voice was barely a whisper, her eyes filling with tears. You promised it would be just you and me at Disneyland. That's all I wanted for my birthday. I know, sweetie, and I'm sorry, but this way all the cousins can be included. It's more fair this way. Fair. The tears spilled over now, running down her cheeks. How is breaking your promise fair? I don't care about fair. I care about the special trip you promised me. Her voice rose with each word until she was nearly shouting. Sophia, please try to understand. Family harmony is important too. The twins and Tyler were feeling left out. So they matter more than me, more than your promise to me. She pushed away from the table, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. What about the princess breakfast? What about the castle cake? I couldn't meet her eyes. I cancelled those too. We'll have a regular cake that everyone will enjoy. I hate you, she cried, the words hitting me like physical blows. You ruined everything. This was supposed to be my special day. Before I could respond, she ran from the table and down the hall. Her bedroom door slammed with enough force to rattle the pictures on the wall. The sound of her sobbing carried through the apartment, each muffled cry, another indictment of my terrible decision. I sat motionless at the table, surrounded by the remains of a dinner neither of us had finished. Mechanically, I began clearing the plates, scraping untouched food into the trash. Tears blurred my vision as I washed dishes, the running water masking my own quiet sobs. What had I done? The question echoed in my mind as I wiped down the counters, trying to focus on the mundane task rather than the heartbroken girl down the hall. An hour later, I heard Sophia on the phone, her voice thick with tears. She cancelled everything, Zoe. The Disneyland trip and the princess breakfast, all of it. Just so my stupid cousins wouldn't feel left out. I winced at her words, but couldn't deny the truth in them. Seeking reassurance, I called Laura. I told her, I said when she answered. She's devastated. She'll get over it, Laura replied dismissively. Kids are resilient. She'll have fun at Adventureland with the others, you'll see. I don't know, Laura. I've never seen her so upset. Maybe I made a mistake. Don't be ridiculous. You made the right choice for the whole family. Sophia needs to learn that she's not the center of the universe. But as I hung up, Laura's words rang hollow. This wasn't about Sophia thinking she was the center of the universe. This was about a promise broken, a special dream shattered. That night, neither of us slept well. I could hear Sophia tossing and turning, occasionally sniffling. In my own room, I stared at the ceiling, replaying the day's events and questioning my decision. The morning brought no relief. Sophia emerged from her room with puffy eyes and a closed expression I had never seen before. She ate breakfast in silence, ignoring my attempts at conversation. When it was time to leave for school, she walked out to the car without a word. I love you, I said, as I pulled up to the school drop-off line. Have a good day. Sophia gathered her backpack and got out of the car without responding, not even glancing back as she walked into the building. The sight of her small shoulders, rigid with hurt and anger, broke my heart all over again. At work, I couldn't concentrate. My mind kept returning to Sophia's tears, to the look of betrayal in her eyes. By lunchtime, I had made 3 significant errors that my supervisor had to correct, earning me a concerned look and a suggestion to get my head in the game. How had I convinced myself that this was the right decision? The question haunted me throughout the day, growing louder with each passing hour. The day of the birthday celebration arrived with an overcast sky that matched my mood. 2 weeks had passed since I had broken the news to Sophia, and while the acute anger had subsided, a new distance had grown between us. She was polite, but reserved, going through the motions of our daily routine, without the warmth and openness that had always characterized our relationship. I had tried repeatedly to generate excitement about the Adventureland celebration, pointing out the rides and attractions they offered, but Sophia's responses were lukewarm at best. It'll be fun to do the roller coaster with your cousins, I suggested one evening. I guess, she replied, not looking up from her book. Now, as we drove to Adventureland, Sophia sat quietly in the passenger seat, staring out the window. She was wearing the new outfit I had bought her for the occasion, a purple blouse and jean shorts, but had left the matching hair ribbon I purchased on her dresser. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," I said, reaching over to squeeze her hand. 12 years old. I can't believe it. "Thanks, she replied, giving me a small smile that didn't reach her eyes. We arrived at the amusement park to find Laura's minivan and James's SUV already in the parking lot. The family was waiting for us at the entrance, a chorus of happy birthday erupting as we approached. Sophia accepted hugs from her grandparents and polite high fives from her cousins, her smile firmly in place but noticeably strained. "The birthday girl is here," my mother exclaimed, snapping photos with her digital camera. "Now the fun can begin." Laura handed out the pre-purchased tickets, taking charge as she often did at family gatherings. I thought we'd start with the water rapids ride, then make our way to the Ferris wheel before lunch. Madison, the more outspoken of the twins, immediately protested. "Mom, I want to do the roller coaster first, you promised." "No way," Tyler interjected. "The go-karts are the best part. We should do those first while the line is short." "I wanted to see the animal show," Mia said quietly, looking at her feet. What should have been a simple decision quickly devolved into a debate with Laura and James, each advocating for their children's preferences. My parents tried to mediate without taking sides, suggesting compromises that satisfied no one. Throughout the discussion, Sophia stood slightly apart from the group, watching the family dynamics with a detached expression. When asked her preference, she simply shrugged and said, "Whatever everyone else wants to do is fine." We eventually settled on the roller coaster first, primarily because Madison's complaints were the loudest. As we made our way through the park, the cousins ran ahead, their earlier disagreement apparently forgotten. Sophia walked beside me, her eyes taking in the colourful surroundings without much enthusiasm. "Not quite Disneyland, is it?" she said softly, so only I could hear. My chest tightened at her words. "It has its own charm," I replied weakly. The morning proceeded with a series of compromises and minor conflicts. Tyler complained that Madison and Mia were taking too long in the bathroom. The twins argued over which snacks to get. My father's back started hurting, limiting which attractions he could accompany us on. James took several work calls, disappearing for 15 to 20 minutes at a time, causing us to wait before moving on to the next activity. Through it all, Sophia went through the motions riding the rides, responding when spoken to, but the spark that normally lit up her face on special occasions was conspicuously absent. I caught her looking wistfully at a young girl wearing Mickey Mouse ears, a souvenir from a park we should have been visiting instead. Around noon, dark clouds began gathering on the horizon. The weather forecast had mentioned a chance of afternoon showers, but we had hoped they would hold off until after our celebration. Nature, however, had other plans. The first drops began falling as we lined up for the log flume, a spattering that quickly turned into a steady downpour. Families around us scrambled for cover, some leaving the park entirely, others huddling under awnings and inside gift shops. "The indoor arcade is this way," I said, pointing toward a building across the central plaza. "We should wait it out there." We made a dash for the arcade, arriving damp but not completely soaked. The space was already crowded with other rain refugees, the noise level rising as more people packed in. The cousins immediately spotted the game machines and began begging for tokens. Laura checked her weather app with a frown. "This isn't just passing through. The radar shows rain for the next several hours." "What about the outdoor rides?" Madison whined. I still wanted to do the big swings. "Most of the outdoor attractions will be closed for safety until the rain stops," James explained, which prompted a fresh round of complaints from the children. My mother, ever the problem solver, suggested we move up our lunch and cake plans. The food court has that pizza place the kids like, and we can have the cake there. By the time we're finished, maybe the rain will have let up. The food court was even more crowded than the arcade, but we managed to find 2 tables pushed together in a corner. The kids picked at their pizza, more interested in watching the arcade games they could see through a connecting doorway than in eating. When it was time for the cake, a staff member brought out the generic sheet cake I had ordered. "Happy Birthday Cousins" was written in blue icing across the top with no specific name or theme. "Everyone gather around," my mother directed, positioning the children behind the cake for photos. "Smile." The forced grins on the cousins' faces told their own story. This wasn't a special day for any of them, just an awkward compromise that pleased no one. When it came time to light the candles, the dampness in the air made the matches sputter and die. After 3 failed attempts, we managed to get only 7 of the 12 candles lit before giving up. "Make a wish, kids," my father encouraged. The cousins looked at each other uncertainly. Whose wish would count on this shared birthday cake? "You go ahead, Sophia," Laura said with artificial brightness, since it's closest to your actual birthday. Sophia looked at the sad, half-lit cake, then at the expectant faces of her family. For a brief moment, her composure slipped and I saw the full extent of her disappointment. Then she took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and blew out the flickering candles. The anemic applause that followed was drowned out by the general noise of the crowded food court. As we cut and distributed slices of cake, Madison complained that her piece was too small, Tyler announced he didn't like vanilla frosting, and Mia quietly traded her cake for more chips. Watching Sophia pick at her cake, barely eating a bite, I felt a wave of regret so powerful it nearly took my breath away. This was her special day, the birthday she had been looking forward to for an entire year, reduced to a generic celebration in a noisy food court with half-lit candles and complaining cousins. The rain continued through the afternoon, confining us to the indoor portions of the park. By 3 o'clock, everyone's patience was wearing thin. Tyler had a meltdown when he ran out of tokens for the arcade games. The twins were bickering constantly. My parents looked exhausted. I think we should call it a day, I finally suggested, looking at Sophia's withdrawn expression. The rain isn't letting up and everyone's getting tired. Papue. To my surprise, there was little protest from anyone. Even the children seemed ready to admit defeat in the face of the weather and the generally disappointing day. As we said our goodbyes in the covered walkway near the exit, Laura pulled me aside. Well, that didn't go quite as planned, did it, stupid weather? No, not quite, I agreed, watching Sophia stand apart from her cousins, gazing out at the rain. At least we tried to do something nice for all the kids together, Laura said, apparently oblivious to the fact that none of the children had particularly enjoyed themselves. That's what matters, right? That we're teaching them about family togetherness. I couldn't bring myself to respond. The hollow platitudes about family togetherness rang especially false after witnessing a day of constant bickering and compromise that had left everyone unsatisfied. The drive home was silent, save for the rhythmic swish of the windshield wipers. Sophia leaned her head against the window, watching raindrops race down the glass. I'm sorry the weather ruined the day, I ventured after several minutes. It wasn't the weather, she replied softly, still looking out the window. It was never going to be special. Her quiet certainty hit harder than any angry outburst could have. Because she was right. In trying to please everyone, I had created an experience that pleased no one, least of all the birthday girl. When we got home, Sophia went straight to her room, closing the door gently behind her. No slam this time, just a quiet click that somehow felt even more final. My phone buzzed with a text from Laura. Madison spilled juice on her new shirt and is throwing a fit. Can you believe kids these days? So ungrateful for all we do for them. I stared at the message. A sudden anger rising in my chest. Laura's twins had gotten exactly what they wanted, the cancellation of Sophia's special trip, yet they were still complaining. And Laura had the nerve to call them ungrateful. For the first time I saw with perfect clarity what I had done. I hadn't created family harmony. I had simply taught my daughter that her happiness was less important than avoiding conflict with people who would never be satisfied anyway. The morning after the birthday fiasco, I woke early, my sleep having been fitful and unsatisfying. The apartment was quiet, Sophia still asleep in her room. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, mentally replaying the previous day's disappointments. On a whim, I walked down the hall to Sophia's bedroom and gently pushed the door open. She was curled on her side, her cheek pressed against her favorite stuffed rabbit, a gift from her father years ago. Even in sleep, she looked solemn, the carefree expression of childhood noticeably absent. I quietly entered the room, intending to pick up the clothes she had discarded on the floor before bed. As I bent to retrieve her purple blouse, I noticed her wastebasket was overflowing with crumpled papers. Curious, I pulled one out and carefully smoothed it open. My heart sank as I recognized the Disneyland research Sophia had been collecting for months. Maps of the park with highlighted routes, lists of characters she hoped to meet, notes about the best times for different attractions. All of it discarded like the dream itself. I picked up another paper, this one a carefully drawn picture of a Cinderella castle cake, almost identical to the one I had ordered and cancelled. Below the drawing, Sophia had written, "My birthday cake will look like this." Tears filled my eyes as I realized the full extent of what I had taken from her. This wasn't just a trip or a cake. It was a dream she had nurtured and looked forward to, counting down the days with an excitement I had casually dismissed in favor of keeping the peace with my difficult siblings. I was still sitting on her floor, surrounded by the discarded dreams, when Sophia woke up. She blinked at me in confusion, then noticed what I was holding. "Why are you going through my trash?" she asked, her voice still husky with sleep. "I'm so sorry, Sophia," I whispered, holding up one of her detailed itineraries. "I didn't realize how much work you had put into planning our trip." She sat up, pulling her knees to her chest. "It doesn't matter now. It's over." "It does matter," I insisted. "All of this mattered, and I treated it like it didn't. I broke my promise to you, and that was wrong." Sophia looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. "You always do this, Mum. Whenever Aunt Laura or Uncle James complain, you always give in. You always choose them over me." Her words hit me like a physical blow. "That's not true," I protested, but even as I spoke, memories flooded my mind. The time we left a movie Sophia was enjoying because the twins got bored. The family vacation, where we spent 3 days at a baseball tournament for Tyler, instead of going to the beach Sophia had voted for. The countless holiday meals where Sophia's food preferences were overlooked in favor of what the other children would eat. "It is true," Sophia said firmly. "Every time there's a family thing, my choices come last. The only thing that was ever just for me was going to be this birthday, and even that got taken away." I couldn't deny her observations. She was right, and the pattern was clear now that she had pointed it out. "I never realized I was doing that," I said softly. "Why didn't you ever say anything before?" She shrugged. "You always seemed so worried about making Aunt Laura and Uncle James happy. I didn't want to be another problem for you." The fact that my 12-year-old daughter had been protecting my feelings, accepting less than she deserved to avoid adding to my stress, made me feel even worse. "You could never be a problem for me, Sophia. You're the most important person in my life, and I've been failing to show you that." "I told Dad what happened," she admitted, looking down at her hands. "When he called to wish me happy birthday yesterday, he was really mad." As if on cue, my phone rang from the kitchen. I glanced at the caller ID, seeing my ex-husband's name. "That's probably him now," I said, standing up. "I should take this." I answered the call in the kitchen, steeling myself for his anger. David and I had maintained a cordial relationship since the divorce, primarily focused on co-parenting Sophia effectively, but this would test those boundaries. "What the hell were you thinking, Evelina?" he demanded without preamble. "Sophia told me you cancelled the Disneyland trip she's been counting down to for a year, all because your sister got her feelings hurt." "It's complicated, David," I began, but he cut me off. "No, it's not complicated at all. You promised our daughter something special for her birthday, something she was incredibly excited about, and you took it away because you can't stand up to your family. That's pretty straightforward." His words stung, but they weren't untrue. I thought I was doing the right thing for family harmony. "Family harmony," he repeated incredulously. "At the expense of Sophia's happiness, she's devastated Evelina. She told me yesterday was the worst birthday of her life." I closed my eyes, remembering Sophia's face as she looked at the half-lit candles on the generic cake. "I know, I made a terrible mistake." "She'll remember this birthday forever," David said, his voice slightly calmer but no less serious. "But not in the way you wanted her to. This is going to stay with her, this feeling that her joy doesn't matter as much as everyone else's comfort." After we hung up, I sat at the kitchen table, David's words echoing in my mind. He was right. This wasn't just about one cancelled trip or a disappointing birthday. This was about the message I was sending my daughter about her worth, about whether her happiness mattered. I opened my laptop and navigated to the Disneyland website, staring at the colourful homepage with its promises of magic and memories. Then I looked at Sophia's closed bedroom door, thinking about the crumpled research in her trash can, the excitement that had been building for a year only to be dashed by my weakness. In that moment, I realized I had a choice to make. I could continue the pattern, prioritizing my siblings' demands and teaching Sophia that her needs came last. Or I could break the cycle and show her that she mattered, that my promises to her were sacred. With sudden clarity, I knew what I needed to do. It might be too late to save her 12th birthday, but it wasn't too late to repair the damage to our relationship and to her sense of self-worth. I picked up my phone again this time to call my supervisor at work to request an unexpected day off. Then I began making plans determined to make things right, even if my family wouldn't approve. Perhaps especially if they wouldn't approve, because it was time I learnt to withstand their disapproval for Sophia's sake. The next morning, I took a rare day off work, telling my supervisor I had a family situation that needed my attention. After Sophia left for school, I spent the day planning and preparing. I went to the mall and purchased a pair of Minnie Mouse ears with Sophia's name embroidered on the back. I stopped by her favourite bakery and ordered a small Cinderella castle cake, explaining the rush order with a simplified version of our story, that made the sympathetic baker promise to have it ready by the next afternoon. Most importantly, I went back to the Disneyland website and booked a new trip for the following month. The princess breakfast was no longer available, but I found a character dining experience for dinner, instead making a special note about it being a belated birthday celebration. When Sophia came home from school, I was waiting with hot chocolate and her favorite cookies. She looked wary as she set down her backpack, clearly uncertain about my unusual presence at home midweek. "Can we talk?" I asked, gesturing to the couch. She nodded cautiously, taking a seat at the opposite end from me, a small but noticeable distance that spoke volumes about the trust that had been broken. "I've been doing a lot of thinking since yesterday," I began, "about what you said about how I always choose the rest of the family over you." She picked up a cookie but didn't eat it, just turning it over in her hands. "Okay, you were right, Sophia. I've been doing exactly what you described and I didn't even realize it. I've been so programmed to keep the peace to avoid conflict with Laura and James that I've been sacrificing your happiness in the process." She looked up at me, surprise flickering across her face at my frank admission. "What happened with your birthday was wrong," I continued. "I made you a promise, we spent a year planning and saving for that trip, and I broke your trust by cancelling it. There's no excuse for that, and I am truly deeply sorry." "Why did you do it?" she asked quietly. Was it really just because the twins and Tyler might feel bad? I considered her question seriously, wanting to give her the honest answer she deserved. Partly that, but mostly because I was afraid of the conflict. I was afraid of Laura and James being upset with me, of having tension at family gatherings. I chose the path of least resistance, and I hurt you in the process. "So what now?" Sophia asked, her expression guarded. "Are we just going to pretend it didn't happen?" "No," I said firmly. "We're going to acknowledge it happened, and then we're going to fix it as best we can." I reached for my purse and pulled out the Disneyland confirmation I had printed earlier. "This isn't your birthday trip anymore, because that can't be reclaimed. But this is a new trip just for us next month." Her eyes widened as she took the paper from me, scanning the details. "You rebooked it, really?" "Really," I confirmed. "No cousins, no compromise, just you and me like I originally promised." "But what about Aunt Laura and Uncle James? Won't they be mad? What about making things fair for everyone?" The questions came tumbling out, revealing how deeply she had internalized the family dynamics. "Sophia, look at me," I said, waiting until her eyes met mine. "This isn't about them. This is about you and about me keeping my promise to you. If they have a problem with that, that's for me to handle, not for you to worry about." A small smile, the first genuine one I'd seen in weeks, tugged at the corners of her mouth. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything," I promised. "I've spent too long trying to make everyone else happy at your expense. That stops now." She launched herself across the couch and into my arms, hugging me tightly. "Thank you, Mom," she whispered against my shoulder. I held her close, feeling as though a weight had been lifted. There would be fallout from my decision, I was certain of that. But for the first time in years, I felt ready to face it. That evening, I made the necessary calls. First to my parents, explaining my decision to reschedule the Disneyland trip and setting clear boundaries about their involvement in my parenting choices going forward. My mother was surprisingly supportive once I explained how devastated Sophia had been, though she cautioned me about the potential reaction from my siblings. Then I called Laura. As expected, she was incredulous. "You're still taking her to Disneyland? After all the drama about fairness, what am I supposed to tell the twins?" "You can tell them that their cousin is going to Disneyland for her belated birthday celebration," I said calmly, "just like they might do something special for their birthday that Sophia doesn't get to do." "This is ridiculous, Evelina. You're undermining everything we talked about regarding treating the kids equally." "No, Laura," I replied, my voice firm. "I'm honoring a promise I made to my daughter. The fact that you can't see the difference says more about you than it does about me." James was equally displeased when I called him next, but I stood my ground. "I understand you're upset, but this is my decision to make as Sophia's mother. I appreciate your concern, but this isn't up for debate." The calls were difficult, but as I hung up from the last one, I felt a sense of empowerment I hadn't experienced in years. I had finally prioritized my daughter's happiness over my family's approval, and while the conversations had been uncomfortable, I had survived them. The following month, Sophia and I boarded a plane to California, just the two of us. The excitement that had been missing on her actual birthday was back in full force, her face animated as she pointed out the window during takeoff, chattering about all the attractions she wanted to see first. Our first glimpse of the Disneyland castle brought tears to my eyes. Sophia stood transfixed, her expression one of pure wonder. "It's even better than I imagined," she breathed, squeezing my hand. We spent 2 magical days riding every ride on her list, meeting princesses, watching parades, and eating ridiculously overpriced theme park food without a single complaint from either of us. The character dinner I had booked as a replacement for the missed birthday breakfast turned out to be even more special, with Cinderella spending extra time at our table after hearing it was a belated birthday celebration. On our last night, as fireworks exploded over the castle, Sophia looked up at me with a contentment I hadn't seen in too long. "This was worth waiting for," she said simply. "You were worth standing up for," I replied, pulling her close. "I'm sorry it took me so long to realize that." In the weeks and months that followed, I maintained the boundaries I had established with my family. There were awkward gatherings at first, with Laura making pointed comments about special treatment and James suggesting I was spoiling Sophia. But I remained firm, confident in my decision to protect my daughter's happiness. Gradually, a new family dynamic began to emerge. When I consistently refused to be manipulated by guilt or obligation, my siblings had no choice but to adjust their expectations. Laura still tried occasionally to pressure me into accommodating her twins' preferences, but now I could calmly suggest alternatives without automatically sacrificing Sophia's interests. Most importantly, my relationship with Sophia transformed. The trust that had been damaged was slowly rebuilding, strengthened by my willingness to stand up for her. She began to voice her opinions more freely, no longer afraid that her preferences would be dismissed for the sake of family peace. For the following year's birthdays, I instituted a new family tradition. Each child would be celebrated individually, with an experience of their choosing, scaled appropriately for the family's respective budgets. No combined parties, no forced equality that ignored individual desires. When Tyler wanted a baseball game for his birthday, we all attended enthusiastically. When the twins requested a fancy tea party, Sophia wore a dress without complaint and genuinely enjoyed herself. The lesson I learned from that disastrous 12th birthday changed my approach to parenting and family dynamics forever. I realized that true fairness isn't about treating everyone identically or ensuring no one ever feels left out. Sometimes being fair in that way is actually the cruelest option, denying a child their moment to feel special and valued. Looking back, I'm grateful for the painful lesson that ultimately strengthened my bond with Sophia and taught me to be a more courageous mother. Sometimes the most important relationship to protect isn't with the loudest or most demanding family members, but with the child who trusts you to champion their happiness even when it's difficult. If you've ever faced a similar situation trying to balance family expectations with your child's happiness, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. How did you handle it? Would you have made a different choice than I initially did? Please like and subscribe. If this story resonated with you, and share it with someone who might need encouragement to stand firm for their child's joy. Thank you for listening to my journey from regret to redemption, and remember that it's never too late to make things right with those we love most.